Hey guys, welcome to our YouTube channel. Today we are excited to have our special guest, Mr. Steve McLean, aka Sarah's husband. So we are glad that you guys are joining us. Hey, if you guys like this video and you like this channel, please swipe up, follow us. We really are excited to be able to offer this resource to you guys. But today we are going to be talking about the perspective from a husband. So first of all, why don't you just kind of share with them kind of the journey that we've been on and from your side, because I feel like they always hear our side. So let's hear it from your side.
It was a long one. You know, when you first, obviously, anyone that hears your friend or your mom or your aunt or whoever has cancer, it affects you. But it was way different when it was my wife, and I wasn't there when you went. She didn't want me to go, so she got the results and called me, and I was actually at work. I remember that, and I didn't even know how to respond. Honestly, I just listened. And do you remember? Did I say anything? What do you remember?
I don't think so. I mean, I remember we were at our apartment and I was by myself, got the call, and I obviously immediately called you. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I think it was just silence. And I think we both were just in shock and disbelief, you know.
I know I got in the car and I was headed home, and just thoughts went through my mind of, well, what is it? I don't really even know what breast cancer is. Mm-hmm. And I had more questions then. I wasn't like angry or sad. I didn't know.
Right.
And so once I got home, I remember talking to you about it, and you were telling me what the doctor said, and you know, both our reactions were, what's next? You know, mm-hmm. what do we do next? And I think us being young.
Yeah, because we were only 26 when we went through this the first time.
Yeah.
So, and we were newly married. We had only been married a year. So
yeah, we didn't know.
We were young. We didn't know anything.
We didn't know anything.
Yeah.
I mean, we were still arguing over dumb stuff that you do when you're newly married. Like, I remember one of our big arguments was she likes to squeeze the toothpaste from the top. I hate that. So we would argue about it. Squeeze it from the bottom. And we would argue, literally, that was an argument daily sometimes. And I had an old friend of mine, an old mentor, tell me, he's like, well, you're an idiot. Why am I? I squeeze it from the proper end of the tube.
We're a little dense. We didn't get it.
No. He said, just get two tubes of toothpaste.
Yeah.
It's like, well, that's brilliant.
Yeah, I know.
So we were just learning how to really cohabitate, honestly. She liked to keep a super neat house, and when I came home, I just kicked my shoes off at the door, and that's where they ended up. And then I couldn't find them the next day because she would put them away. Mm-hmm. So we were in those fun times of being newly married and living together, and we had actually just moved from state to state, so learning that, new jobs as well. Mm-hmm. So it was a difficult season at first, but you know, I remember going to the next doctor's appointment, and they were kind of telling us what the diagnosis was, what the plan was, and I still didn't really have a fear or a worry.
Well, it's weird because, like we say, it's like a roller coaster. So it's like we've gotten on this ride that we don't know where it's going. We don't understand anything about it. Like we didn't understand the terminology. We didn't know anything that was going on.
You trusted your doctor. This is what we're going to do, and this is why we're going to do it. And I was just along for the ride, like, yeah, sure, great. But I think it really hit me the first surgery, when you went back pre-op, and then they called me to come back and hang out with you for a little bit. I kind of realized I could see the nurses, and I could see the anesthesiologist come in, and then the surgeon comes in, and what they were telling us and what they were going to do. And then I started to get a lot of fear, actually. I was worried what was going to happen, how the surgery was going to go, how she was going to react to the surgery, what she was going to look like, honestly, because no one really said anything about it.
I mean, unless you're Googling it just to see images, which We do not recommend that.
No.
Please don't Google stuff because that can terrify you even more.
Yeah, you see the worst first. But, then really where it got super hard was when I was in the waiting room while you were having your first surgery. Completely alone, by myself,
Alone.
with my thoughts. Well, we had people there, but it didn't. They were. It felt like I was alone because they didn't understand. It wasn't them. It wasn't their wife.
Right.
I know your mom and dad
So
were
did you
there.
go sit by yourself, kind of, and?
No, I sat. I
But
sat
you
with.
still were kind of alone.
Yeah, I sat with
amongst
the
everyone.
family,
Yeah.
but I'm alone in my head. And I'm wondering what's going on.
Yeah.
Is she going to be okay? What's it going to be like afterwards? Are we going to be okay? Because like Sarah said, we were only married a year. Well, at the time of surgery, it was like 15 months.
Yeah.
So it was very difficult.
So you feel alone. You're
Yeah.
wondering what it's going to be like. So let's fast forward. So we get through the surgery. We're at home. Let's kind of. We've been going through this for a long time. So
We get through the surgery, and what was tough was, you go home and, you were healing. So what do we have to do? It was work. There was a lot of work at first, changing bandages and doing this and doing that. What's the next appointment? How do we take care of this? What do we take care of? And it was just the next step.
I feel like the role as a caretaker is so unassumed. People don't
Yeah.
realize all that you guys are doing. I feel like oftentimes it's harder for you guys in different ways, because you are still trying to maintain the home and keeping up with the bills and the groceries and the kids and taking care of us on top of it. So I can't imagine like the level of
We don't
stress.
We don't have enough time on this
Yeah.
deal. I mean, I don't even know how much time you're giving me because I could go on and on and on about
You get 12 minutes, dear.
the level of responsibility that is thrown on your shoulders at that point because you were you couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
You couldn't take care of yourself. You couldn't go to the bathroom by yourself. You couldn't take a shower you couldn't do anything by
So when you were
yourself.
seeing all that, like as a husband, you said that, the surgery part, you started to get fear, but you're still having to maintain your emotional composure to help me. So now we're on the other side of that. What's going through your mind at that point? Like, you're keeping up with me every day? Are you thinking, like, once you did see me, were you just, obviously you still love me and all that. I'm not saying that, but like, was it kind of scary to you? Were you kind of like, oh,
No.
wow. Were you still attracted to me?
Yes, yes. The physical appearance didn't change anything about how I felt. Lucky for you, I was a butt guy, not a boobs guy. So that was okay.
Yeah.
But it didn't change. I was more worried about how you felt about yourself more than what I saw or what I felt.
Well, and I just want to give a disclaimer here. So we are, what, 20 years?
We're 20 years out.
June, I'm 20 years from the first diagnosis. And guys, I'm just saying, like, it's still a challenge. And that's why we're here. And that's why we want to be honest about it. And we want to help people understand long term, like, it's still a struggle sometimes.
Very much.
Obviously we love each other. Obviously we're in this. We're committed to one another. But I'm just saying, like, when he says he wanted to know how I felt about myself, like, it's still hard. And I get people say, obviously this body has fought hard. I get all of that stuff. But we still wake up with those scars every morning. And it's still a constant reminder to love yourself, So.
I think to just kind of sum up, I'll sum up maybe the first, let's say 2 or 3 years, and then 20. So that sum up the first 2 or 3 years, it was just work. What's the next appointment? What's the next surgery? What's the recovery like?
Yeah.
And for me, I had to hide everything on my side. I didn't feel like I was allowed to have an emotion.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like I was allowed to have really a voice. I couldn't say, this sucks. This sucks for me, which it did. It sucked for me. It sucked for me not only on the mental side of it, because now I'm responsible for a lot more things. I'm responsible for you and your well-being, for your emotional well-being, for your physical well-being, for your spiritual well-being, and then I'm responsible for the financial stuff. I had to keep the house going. I had to work, and I felt guilty sometimes for having to go to work, and then I felt guilty for actually being at work because you needed me at home. And then I had to rely on other people to help, which made me feel like I wasn't adequate and I wasn't able to help you.
Yeah.
So that was like the first 3 years, but the 20 years in summary was just, it is, you take it as it comes. One of the biggest lessons or the biggest things I've learned, and I think we've both had to adjust our life to, is not to be offended, not to take offense. Because I screwed up so much. I wanted to fix everything. I wanted to control it. I wanted to make everything better. And doing all that, I think I made most things worse. My intentions were right.
Right. We're just learning as we go.
Yeah.
You're doing the best you can.
We had no help. There wasn't anybody for me to call and say, hey,
Right.
how do I do this? What do I do next?
Right.
Or how do I deal with my wife in this capacity? She doesn't think she's beautiful anymore. She doesn't think she's pretty anymore. We don't have sex anymore. Like, what do we do? Like she said, we were 26, 27, 28. So, intimacy and sex was a big part of our relationship at that point, or it should have been. And that was another huge stress, which I'm sure that'll be a topic for another one.
That'll be a different episode.
Yes. Because that one could be a long one too. That one will need like 45 minutes to hour and a half maybe, I don't know. But just carrying that burden myself, I didn't feel like I had a place where I could share. I didn't have a support system. I didn't have anybody that come alongside me to say, hey man, I got you, I understand. I get it. I had good friends that would come alongside and say, hey, we're here for you.
Survivor's husband.
They had no idea.
Right.
None. They cared and they loved me, but they had no clue.
Right.
So that was really, really hard. And, I remember it was 10 years before anybody ever said, Steve, how are you? Mm-hmm. It was 10 years before anybody ever asked how I was doing or if I needed anything. That's a long time to carry that burden and to keep it inside, not to overwhelm you with it or not to put pressure on you, because, there were hundreds of times where you kept apologizing. I'm sorry I did this. I'm sorry I did this, for the financial burden and the stress burden, which obviously we know it's not her fault and it wasn't your fault, but the struggle was real. Mm-hmm. We sometimes crawled through it.
Yeah.
Sometimes we just sat on the couch and stared at each other and had no clue where to go from there. So, to be honest, even to this day, I still have a ton of struggles. I still have a ton of questions. I have a lot of whys. I have a lot of reasons to understand. Like Sarah said a little while ago, there are things that keep going. There are follow-up appointments. There are scar tissue issues. There's capsular contracture. There's all kinds of other things that come up and that have come up that adds another layer of something else. And again, we're just learning as we go.
So how would you encourage somebody? Let's end with that. What would you encourage a husband right now? Let's just give one last.
Best encouragement I can give you is be a much better listener. Do not try to fix it. Don't try to control it, because you will screw it up really bad. I'm just being honest. I don't care how great you think you are, strong you think you are, as good a communicator, you're going to screw it up, because we are not women. We don't understand what's going on in their body, from their perspective, what it's like physically, emotionally, what the appearance is like. I mean, guys, we don't walk around with a thought in our head of, people are looking at my boobs in my t-shirt and they know I have breast cancer. We don't think that. We've never thought that. Or my reconstruction wasn't great, so people are going to see it's messed up through my clothes. We don't think that. So just be quiet more, listen more, when they ask you for something specific, do that and only that. Do what they ask you, leave the rest alone. Ask questions. When they do decide to yell and scream at you, which it will happen, don't be offended by it. That's a sign of you're their comfort place. You're the place that they can come to and let the real emotions come out. And unfortunately, guys, that's our job. We just kind of have to stand there and take it in the crotch sometimes and just look at her, tell her you love her, and you'll do whatever you can to help make it better. It's the best advice I can give you.
That's good advice.
I don't do it all the time.
Well, I mean, you know, the reason that we are passionate about sharing Steve's story is because I think men are overlooked. Our spouses are not recognized a lot of times. And so I think it's important to give them a voice and share. So if there is your spouse, because it's probably the girls listening to this right now, so if you guys are in need of help, please reach out to project31.com. Steve is willing to talk with your husband. He's always available. We'll give his phone number out. He won't call them, but if you'd like to have his phone number, we're definitely willing to give that out to you. And so we just want to encourage you that you're not alone, that there are people that understand, and that we are ready and willing to walk with you. So I hope this has encouraged you today, and just don't give up.
I'd like to see if you put anything in the comments. What else would you like to hear from a guy's perspective? I think that would be good to hear from the ladies.
Yeah. So, yeah, like Steve said, go ahead and put your comments if there is something else or if you have questions. And reach out to project31.com, follow and like. Have a good day.